Okay, good morning and welcome to a Nivec Pro tutorial. I'm Kevin Jackson and I'll be showing you how to do a 2D background for animation. Now, this background that you see here, we are going to try and replicate this. This is a background I did for an animation that I will be showing a demo of soon. So let's just look at this background real quick and see what's up. We have a night sky with a few clouds, the glowing moon, and some trees and grass and land in silhouette. I'm going to choose 1920 by 1080 pixels. Why I'm doing this is because it matches typical HD dimensions that you'd find on a widescreen LCD TV. I want this animation to be able to scale up to that size and down to any size that I want. So we start here, 1920 by 1080. This is 1080p HD. And we're leaving the resolution at 72. Why? Because 72 is fine for web, and this animation will mostly be going on the web. And it's also fine for TV. You could go a little higher with TV for more details, but you won't notice it. 300 would be something that you would use for print. Since we're not printing, 72 is fine. And we leave the RGB color at 8-bit because again, this color range is fine for what we're doing. It's fine for TV. You have things like grayscale, CMYK. CMYK is more for print, and grayscale, well, we're not doing a black and white, so we stick with RGB. So let's just give this a title. We'll just call it background. All right, so here we have our blank canvas. And the first thing that I like to do is I like to just name this first layer. I'm going to call it sky. So we're going to start with the sky. The first thing that I would do is I need to choose my colors for the sky. So I go down here to the color palette, and what I want to choose are some dark blues. I'm going to be using a gradient. We can look back at our reference photo here and see what we have. What we have here is a dark blue at the top going down to a light blue. And the reason for that is because it adds better contrast. As you can see, the objects on the ground are darker, so to add good contrast, a lighter background works. And as we can see in the sky, the objects are brighter, so a darker background adds a nice contrast. Alright, you know what? I'm changing this black. I would like it to just be a dark blue. Let's look back. It's a little different. But let's leave it like this for now. Move on to the moon. So I'm creating a new layer. I'm going to call this moon. And the moon is pretty simple. It's just a circle. Now, the color I like to use is a light yellow. So I go down to yellow. Choose a very light yellow, like almost white. That seems good. Go to the shape tool. Alright, so go to the shape tool. Go to the ellipse tool. And then I'm going to hold down shift and draw a perfect circle. Okay, there we have it. So you have to hold on shift when you're dragging it to get a perfect circle, or else you're going to get a kind of ill-shaped oval. So what I want to do here is I want to add a glow. So I'm going to select outer glow, and then I'm going to highlight outer glow so that I can go to the properties. And what I'm going to do here is increase the size of the glow. Let's add another layer. We're going to call this ground. Before I go to the ground, let me just add some details to the moon. Go for our paintbrush tool. And I'm going to go with pixel, 1 pixel. See, choosing a gray. You're going to see why in a moment. What I'm doing here is I'm putting in craters. So I'm going to control plus just to increase my canvas size. With the paintbrush selected, I'm going to just add some craters, which are just some tiny semicircles.
Maybe even a full circle. Just one. And another little semicircle.
Next on my list now, the ground. Looks kind of right. Let's try it out. This might be a little too light though, but let's try it out anyway. Use a rectangle tool. Why do I have this glow on top? I do not know. Ah, okay. Outer glow selected for some reason. It looks kind of cool though, you know, it could act like morning fog or something. Hmm. Let me kind of leave it for now and see what happens. But I want the ground to be a little bit darker because it's night, so let's go dark. That's a little better. Yeah, that's better to me. Alright, so we have the ground. Okay, the next layer I want to tackle it. There are several ways you can do trees. You can use a brush tool, you could use a lasso tool, or you could use a pen tool. For this tutorial, I'm going to use a lasso tool and just create the outline of a tree. Alright, so we have the rough outline of a tree. So now I want to color it. So there I have my tree. What I can do is I can use the brush tool now. Go darker again. Start adding in some detail lines. Let me just increase the size of the brush real quick. Let's see what 3 looks like. Oh yeah, 3 looks good. So what I'm doing is I'm just following the contour lines of the tree from the root, going up, giving the bark some texture. And this is one way of adding some detail. There are other ways, but for now this works for me. Let's just go ahead and select the marquee tool, right click, deselect. Now I'm going to add another layer separately for the leaves. Again, I'm going to be using the lasso tool, and basically I'm just going to be outlining some shrubbery to represent the leaves. You can just freeform this any way you want, whatever looks good to you. This is what works for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the eyedropper tool, choose the same color as the ground, just to give a bit of contrast between the bark and the leaves. Get my paint bucket tool, fill it in. I'm going to drag the leaves behind the tree so we can see the difference. Once again, and there you see the tree, the ground, the sky, a little bit of mist on the ground from the glow. I'm actually going to now use the eraser tool and just put a few holes in the tree. You might be wondering why I do this, but the reason is that, with trees, when you have the leaves, you can see through parts of it. So this simulates that. All right, so what's next? We have the tree, the ground. Let's add some, add some grass. Now, we're going to use a special brush for that. Don't worry, it comes stock with Photoshop. And that's one of these right here. Now, you need to choose a color that matches your background. Right now, I have brown and blue selected. Blue is not going to work. So I'm going to go for more gray. And let's see what that looks like. That looks decent. I'm going to put the grass behind the tree. And I'm just going to be brushing away, brushing away, brushing away, brushing away. You need to get a lot of overlap when you're doing this, so you don't see too many gaps. The gaps kind of give it away that it's a brush. So you want to just be very generous. Yeah, we're covering up the fog, but don't worry about that. If you really like the fog, you can always drag the grass down. Mm, yeah, you can always drag the grass down behind the ground. That way you get the fog coming in. And then of course, I would just recommend grassing it up a little higher. But that's if you want to do that. So it's entirely up to you. So we're adding a new layer for stars. And for me, the stars are simply a white brush. Or you can make it slightly yellow, just to kind of match the moon. I'm going to select a 5. And you know what? Let's make it slightly yellow. Actually, no, let's keep it white. So you're just going to go in, add these dots. I add them randomly. It's starting to look like night sky already. Alright, that's enough stars for now. Let me move to the clouds. So new layout. We're going to go for a soft brush. Maybe around, let's start with 65, see how that works. Since it's night, we want something dark gray. Alright, that looks good. Let's just work with that for now. I'm going to put some clouds in front of the moon. So I need to raise my cloud layer above the moon. So what I'm doing with the brush, I'm just making swirls, just making circles, making circles, making circles. Swirling, swirling, swirling. Nothing too complicated. There are other methods to doing clouds, but this is the method that works for this particular scene. And I'll just leave it at 3 clouds. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the layer slightly transparent because I want to see the moon through it. And I'm going to go back in and choose a darker gray again just to accent the clouds a bit. Make the clouds a little bit more ominous. That might be a little too dark. Undo that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this brush a little bit transparent. And yeah, now we start adding. That looks a lot better to me. So I don't know if you saw what I did, but I just up here reduce the opacity of the brush so that while I'm coloring, it's not as harsh. It adds a bit of an ominous feel to the clouds, make the clouds look like, they're getting ready to rain. That works for now. So we can do one more thing just to make this look a little bit better. And Here's what it is. So I go to the ground layer, I select the lasso tool, and what I'm going to be doing is drawing some imperfect ovals on the ground. Now, hold down shift to draw multiple ones. Doesn't matter how you draw them. Just watch. I'm just going to be doing these elongated. I'm doing them smaller at the back, and I'm going to be doing them larger at the front. Just add some depth. But let's go to our levels, and you see what happens there. You could either make it lighter or darker with the levels tool. It only affects where you lassoed. Going too dark, of course, makes it look a little bit ridiculous. Going too light might make it unnoticeable. So let's find a happy in between. Forgetting one more thing. Let's add a mountain. I'm going to use the lasso tool for this since I'm already on it. And for the mountain, I'm just going to draw these humps. And I'm just going to fill it in like so. I wouldn't mind it a little bit darker, almost black. Let's check this, see what that looks like. That looks decent. Too close to the grass. Let's go back darker. Yep. And I'm going to keep the marching ants on. And I'm going to go to my paintbrush. Keep it on soft. Just go a little smaller. I think 45 will. And I'm going to choose a lighter color. And this is going to represent the highlight from the moon. You see, the moon is going to be reflecting off the mountain. Alright, so there you have it, a 2D background that you can use in your animations. And it was pretty simple using Photoshop. Doesn't take long, 15 to 30 minutes max. And you can experiment, get what you want. Next tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how to animate this with bones. So please stay tuned and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.